The Industrial Revolution was the transition to the new manufacturing processes in the period from about 1760 to sometime between 1820 and 1840. This transition included going from hand production methods to machines, new chemical manufacturing, and iron production processes, improved efficiency of water power, the increasing use of steam power, the development of machine tools, and the rise of the factory system. Textiles were the dominant industry of the Industrial Revolution in terms of employment, value of output, and capital invested. The textile industry was also the first to use modern production methods. The Industrial Revolution began in the United Kingdom, and most of the important technological innovations were British. The Industrial Revolution marks a major turning point in history. Almost every aspect of daily life was influenced in some way. In particular, average income and population began to exhibit unprecedented sustained growth. Some economists say that the major impact of the Industrial Revolution was that the standard of living for the general population began to increase consistently for the first time in history, although others have said that it did not begin to meaningfully improve until the late 19th and 20th centuries. At approximately the same time the Industrial Revolution was occurring, Britain was undergoing an agricultural revolution, which also helped to improve the standard of living. Mechanized textile production spread from Great Britain to continental Europe in the early 19th century, with important centers in France. A major iron-making center developed in Belgium. Since the industrialization has spread throughout the world, the precise start and end of the Industrial Revolution is still debated among historians, as is the pace of economic and social changes. GDP per capita was broadly stable before the Industrial Revolution and the emergence of the modern capitalist economy, while the Industrial Revolution began an era of per capita economic growth in capitalist economies. Economic historians are in agreement that the onset of the Industrial Revolution is the most important event in the history of humanity since the domestication of animals and plants. The first Industrial Revolution evolved into the Second Industrial Revolution in the transition years between 1840 and 1870, when technological and economic progress continued with the increasing adoption of steam transport. The large-scale manufacture of machine tools and the increasing use of machinery and steam-powered factories. These new advances lead to several new types of factories developing.
Hello, Tom Smith.
Good to be here with you, Gary.
What time did you begin to work at a factory?
When I was 6 years old.
Wow, that's really young. What was your business in the mill?
I was a little doffer. I was a worker who changed the bobbins on the frames and the spinning machines.
That sounds like meticulous work. I'm not sure that I would enjoy that. What were your usual hours of labor in the mill?
From 6 in the morning till 7 at night. It was really long hours.
That seems like a lot of work for a little guy. What time was allowed for your meals?
40 minutes at noon, every day. That's it.
That is not a lot of time, and a very short break.
Yeah.
Had you any time to get your breakfast or drinking?
No, we got it as we could. There was very little time to eat at all.
That's not very good for your health at all. Do you consider doffing a laborious employment?
Yes, it was hard running back and forth through all the machines with a big basket full of thread.
I'm sure a lot of people got hurt. That sounds like
Yes.
it'd be dangerous. Does your work keep you constantly on your feet?
Yes, there are so many frames and they run so quick. It never stops.
So I guess you could say your labor is very excessive?
Yes, you have no time for anything.
Suppose you slowed down a little, or you messed up, or did something wrong, or were late.
They strapped or beat us.
They beat you?
Yes, they beat us.
That's a very harsh punishment.
Yeah.
Are they in the habit of strapping those who are last in doffing?
Yes.
So I guess that would make you want to work harder, but still, that's terrible.
Yes, so sometimes our only motivation.
And that happened constantly?
Yes, all the time.
And so I heard that girls also worked and got the same punishment, same...
Yes, sometimes their punishments could even be more severe.
That's not very good at all. So have you yourself ever been strapped?
Yes.
What was it like?
It was awful. I would never want to experience it again in my life.
Would you say it was severe?
Yes.
That is not good at all. Do you have any lasting injuries or
Yes,
forever?
there are scars on my back from it.
That's not very good. We might have to see those at the end.
Right.
Could you eat your food well in that factory?
No, indeed, I had not much to eat, and the little I had I could not eat at all. My appetite was so poor and being covered with dust, and it was no use to take it home. I could not eat it, and the overlooker took it and gave it to the pigs.
Well, after hearing all that awful stories and the painful memories, I'm glad you shared, and thank you for your time.
Glad to be here with you, and glad to talk about my experiences. The factory system has many characteristics. The defining characteristics of the factory system are: the factory system is considered a capitalist form of production. The operative labor generally does not own a significant share of the enterprise. The capitalist owners provide all machinery, buildings, management, and administration, raw or semi-finished materials, and are responsible for the sale of all production as well as the resulting losses. Use of unskilled labor. Before the factory system, many products such as shoes and muskets were made by skilled craftsmen who usually custom-made an entire article. In contrast, factories practiced division of labor, in which most workers were either low-skilled laborers who tended or operated machinery, or unskilled laborers who moved materials, semi-finished, and finished goods. There were a few skilled mechanics. Division of labor was also practiced by the putting out system, in which, for example, pieces of leather were cut off site and brought to a central shop to be made into shoes or other articles. Economies for scale. Factories produce products on a much larger scale than the putting out of our other craftsmen. Because factories could oversupply local markets, access to transportation was important so that goods could be widely distributed. Factories used far less manpower per unit of production and therefore lowered product cost. Location. Before the widespread use of steam power and railroads, most factories were built by water and near water transportation. Railroads became widespread, so factories could be located away from water power sites but near railroads. Centralization. The cost and complexity of machinery, especially that powered by water or steam, was more than the cottage industry workers could afford or had the skills to maintain. The exception was the sewing machine, which allowed the putting out of sewing to continue for decades after the rise of factories. Home spinning and weaving were displaced in the years following the introduction of factory production, especially as distribution became easier. Workers and machines were brought together in a central factory complex specially designed to handle the machinery and flow of materials. Although the earliest factories were usually all under one roof, different operations might be done on different floors. Multi-story buildings were common because they facilitated transmission of power through line shafts. In large factories, such as Baldwin Locomotive Works, different processes were performed in different buildings.
Although the factory system was efficient, debate arose concerning the morality of the system, as workers complained about unfair working conditions prior to the passage of labor laws. One of the problems concerned women's labor, which in many cases women were paid almost a quarter of what men made. Child labor was also a major part of the system, and was vehemently argued by those who deemed it immoral. However, in the early 19th century, education was not compulsory, and in many families having children, work was necessary due to low incomes. Children commonly did farm labor and produced goods for the household. Besides working in factories, children also worked in mines. Some industrialists themselves tried to improve factory and living conditions for their workers. One of the earliest such reformers was Robert Owen, known for his pioneering efforts in improving conditions for workers at the New Lanark Mills, and often regarded as one of the key thinkers of the early socialist movement. That's all we have time for today. I hope you learned a lot about the Industrial Revolution.
This man lost his arm in a factory. Here today, he's going to share something about the history of these awful, dangerous factories.
Richard Arkwright is the person credited with being the brains behind the growth of factories. After deploying his spinning frame in 1769, he created the first true factory at Cromford near Derby. This act was to change Great Britain. Before very long, this factory was employed over 300 people. Nothing had ever been seen like this before. The domestic system only needed 2 to 3 people working in their own home. In 1789, the Cromford Mill employed 800 people. With the exception of a few engineers in the factory, the bulk of the workforce were essentially unskilled. They had their own job to do over a set number of hours, whereas those in the domestic system could work their own hours and enjoy a degree of flexibility. Those in the factories were governed by a clock and factory rules. Edmund Cartwright's power loom ended the lifestyle of skilled weavers. In the 1790s, weavers were well paid. Within 30 years, many had become laborers in factories, as their skill had now been taken over